One of my favorite ways to spice up a normal chord progression is the use of what I call jangle chords. And today I'm going to show you 10 instances where famous rock bands you've heard of have used these jangle chords in their own songs. But before we get to that, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to my channel. And while you're at it, why don't you check out the Near Life Experience Patreon community. Now, before we get to the songs, let's talk a little bit about what exactly jangle chords are. Fact is, I use that term fairly loosely. And one of the most common jangle chords that I see are the altered bar chord. You make an E-shaped bar chord, for example, on, say, the 5th fret, and lift your finger up down here so that the first two strings are open, and then strum. There, you've got a nice little jangle chord, and you can move that all around the fretboard, like to the 7th fret. You can take it down to the 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 1st fret, and you can experiment with different spots on the fretboard. The one thing that all jangle chords have in common is that they have both notes you're pressing and open strings ringing out. Here's a few more examples. Here's a few minor sounding ones. Anyway, it's really a wide open concept and you can experiment with any kind of shape you want. You can even play your normal old basic open chords and move them around on the fretboard and see how that sounds. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get to our list, shall we? With song number 1, we're going to look at one of my favorite all-time grunge bands, Allison Chains. Guitarist Jerry Cantrell used jangle chords quite often. In fact, he used them in my absolute favorite Allison Chains tune of all time, Rooster. He starts with an F-sharp bar chord, and then he lifts his first finger to give it that jangle chord sound. Then he goes to an A bar chord, lifts his first finger again, and gives it that jangle sound. So this is how he plays it based on the MTV Unplugged version. Another classic rock band that made use of jangle chords quite often is Rush. Alex Lifeson clearly loved the way these chords sounded because he put them in quite a few Rush songs, most prominently in the song Xanadu. One of the most famous songs to use jangle chords is Over the Hills and Far Away by Led Zeppelin. This uses a shape that's not unlike an A7 bar chord shape, like this. But instead of barring all of the strings, you're only going to press the 5th string with your first finger. He starts with it in the B flat position, and then he moves it into the C position. Alternative rock pioneer Radiohead was no stranger to jangle chords either. In fact, the song that opens up their epic OK Computer album, Airbag, made quite an interesting and cool use of the jangle chord concept. What he was doing is essentially playing like an A triad, but without that first finger there, so you got this sound. And then he would give it an augmented feel by doing this, and then sort of a suspended 4 feel, and then of course resolve that back to the A. And this is how it sounds in the song. up and down. I am born again. The first song that I ever heard where I really made the connection that I was listening to a jangle chord is Bela Lugosi's Dead by Bauhaus. Every big fan of the band knows this song and loves it. In fact, it made an appearance, as did lead singer Peter Murphy, in the David Bowie vampire film The Hunger. He starts using that very familiar E bar chord shape up here at the 10th fret in the D position as a jangle chord, and then he brings it down 1 fret to the C sharp position, and then brings it down 2 frets to the B position, where it kind of gives you a resolution right there. Here's how it sounds in the song. White on white, translucent black capes, black on the rack. Bela Lugosi's dead. Bela Lugosi's dead. The bats have left the bell tower. Next we have Close My Eyes Forever by Ozzy Osbourne and Lita Ford. I've talked about this song a lot because it covers a lot of ground when it comes to important skills you might want to learn on the guitar, and jangle chords is yet another one of those things that it uses. These chords that she's playing in the song are, in my opinion, jangle chords. The first one is one of my favorite alternate ways to play an A minor chord. The next one is used as a sort of substitution for a G chord. And then the next one is used as a substitution for an F chord. This is how it goes in the song. Heaven is in the palm of my hands and it's waiting here for you. What am I supposed to do with a childhood tragedy? Of course, no list would be complete without a song by Oasis. I'm just kidding, this is the first video where I've even used an Oasis song. They use it in the song All Around the World. This one uses jangle chords for sort of an interesting effect. It has an acoustic guitar playing a fairly standard strum pattern over a regular B bar chord, then down to an F sharp, and then an E, and then a G sharp minor, and then back to the F sharp. Meanwhile, the electric is following the exact same positions of the acoustic, but playing each of them as jangle chords instead. Let me show you what it sounds like. You might not be surprised to learn that late great guitarist Randy Rhodes was also no stranger to the jangle chords concept. On the Ozzy Osbourne song You Can't Kill Rock and Roll, he used them quite prominently. He starts with the E-shaped bar chord in the B position, then he goes to the A position, but instead of playing the bar, he just plays the open A string and the rest of that chord. Now, in the actual recording, he's tuned a half step down, but I'm going to show it to you right now in standard tuning. Now, one of the absolute most beautiful uses of jangle chords comes from the Emerson, Lake and Palmer song From the Beginning. These chords are actually quite simple because they're only 2-note shapes that they move around the fretboard and add some open strings along with them. He includes this shape, this shape, this shape, this shape, and this shape. And this is how they put it all together in that absolutely gorgeous intro. Finally, let's let's talk about Colin Hay's masterpiece, Overkill, the acoustic version that he made as sort of a cover of the original Men at Work version he created years and years ago. And what I specifically want to look at is the version that he presents in this video that's floating out there on YouTube, where he actually shows you how to play the acoustic version of the song. What he's doing here is essentially a double drop D tuning. So he tunes the top string to D and the bottom string to D. And then he plays a ton of jangle chords. So he starts with this shape right here. And then he goes to this one. And then this. And then this one. And I'm going to show you how it sounds played over the final verse section. I can't get to sleep. I think about the implications of diving in too deep, and possibly the complications, especially at night. I worry about situations I know we'll be alright. It's just overkill.